Stranger Things Season 3. So I have one more season to review before the final season drops in November. And yeah, I'll be honest, I loved Stranger Things for a long time. It was my all-time favorite show for a little bit. I rewatched the show multiple times, at least those first couple seasons. And then season 3 happened, which I watched the show, and I watched that season like the day it came out. It was like, might have been over a span a couple days. I think it was probably just that first day I binged through the whole season. Because, I mean, these seasons for Stranger Things, they take forever to come out for various reasons. This show blew up so big, and then all these actors like Millie Bobby Brown and Finn Wolfhard ended up in all these other projects. So they're trying to like balance filming this show and doing that, which very demanding work. So I get it. When these seasons come out, we're all so excited. We just binge them one day, and we're all trying to avoid spoilers. But I just like I liked it, but I didn't, and I really the more that season sat with me, the less I liked it, and I never went back. And so now, finally, rewatching the season for a third time, because I did one a few years ago, or it might have been a year ago, and it's not. I don't remember anything about that binge watch other than I was planning to make a video about my issues with season 3 and how the season killed the show. Glad I never did that, by the way, because season 4 renewed my interest in the show. So we'll talk about that when we get to season 4. But this season is still bad. I think this is the worst season of the show, and pretty fucking terrible. First of all, let's start with what I like, because I don't want this video to be me just complaining. Each of these seasons have a lot of good things to offer. First of all, let's start with the obvious. This is still a very bingeable show. Every episode I was rewatching, I had a good time and immediately wanted to click to the next one. Means no difference here. Still that vibe and energy watching this season, right? So I'm not going to pretend that's not a factor here, because it is a very bingeable show. I really connected with the character of Alexei. I thought he was a fun addition, even if the plot lines he even involved in, I don't think are good. And we'll get to that. All the acting's still good. Lots of fun character dynamics. Robin's a great addition to the team. Maya Hawke is wonderful, and I just love anything she's in. She does a great job here. Now let's start with the negatives, which there's just a lot of. First of all, Hopper's an asshole. This whole season. Season starts with him ranting to Joyce about Mike and Levin being together, and him being kind of an asshole and doing a dickish thing to Mike to really mess up their relationship that is just so mean-spirited and just what the fuck. I think I got what they were kind of going for with that storyline, which is that Hopper didn't actually get to see his daughter grow up, so maybe he's a little bit protective, but I don't think they portrayed that very well. And so I think he's just kind of an asshole to Mike for no reason. And that messes up their whole relationship. And then, then you get to the other part of him, which is like he works with the mayor to like stop these protests and stuff. And there's a reason for it. It's just like, that's an asshole move. And the way he yells at Joyce and stuff and is kind of a dick to her through multiple points at it, while also trying to just date her and get with her. It just feels so wrong and mean-spirited the way they went about it, especially since Joyce is clearly still grieving over the loss of Bob last season. So I just don't like that. So, yeah. The next part of the season I really just didn't like is like Nancy and Joyce, not Joyce. God, what's his name? A Jonathan storyline. Nancy and Jonathan's storyline with them working at the newspaper and these guys being like rude assholes to her and sexist. Like, it's not fun to watch. So like, why are we watching this? And it never really is relevant during the season. This is the problem with this show towards the end of its run, is this show is filled with so many characters that they don't always know how to balance them. So some characters give really weak subplots that don't really feel like they matter too much to the overall show, and that's just one of those examples. And it's just not fun to watch. I really hate that certain shows and movies set in like a time period, like it'll be like the 50s or the 80s or the 1800s, and they feel like they have to have a female character and show how sexist it was back in the time. It's like, well, you're not saying anything new, and sometimes, I get it because it's part of the time, but other times it's just like, fuck, really? And that's one of those examples I just really do not like doing that here. So, yeah, I really don't like that plot line. I just thought it was super annoying, very irritating, and not fun to watch. I do really enjoy, um, the kids subplot, but I think their subplot was really irritating this season because a lot of relationship drama and like forced drama that again is just set up through Hopper being a dick to Mike, and it's just not fun to watch. And I get these at this age, the boys are going to be like into girls and stuff, and so you have to portray that in the show, and they're being their adolescence. But I feel like we could have cut down on it a little bit more. I do really like Will, trying to get them all back into D&D and just have some fun with it. I do think it's really weird though, some of the lines like Mike says to Will about like, it's not my fault you don't like girls. It's like, is it his face in that scene is like, is he gay? Like, what are we doing here? And if that's where we're going with it, go with it. I'm cool with it. But it just feels so awkward the way they've gone about it in the show. I don't know. I just feel like that's something fans speculated about, and I feel like it maybe just needs to be answered by next season so we can drop that speculation, because I feel like there's so many weird things in this show with that character once you start noticing that kind of stuff. But anyways, the other thing I really don't like that really ruins this season is there's two plot lines I don't really like in this season that really destroyed the show for me. First of all, the mystery of like the invasion of the body type snatcher shit, and the evil Russians plotline. Both of these plot lines are terrible because there's a lot of long stretches of the season where the characters are trying to figure out plot lines that we already know are happening. The first episode of this show literally starts the first minute showing us that there are evil Russians in this season. Great. Now we know there's evil Russians. But the problem is that we didn't need to see that. And so the rest of the season, we're trying to figure out, we have all of our characters trying to figure out what's going on with these evil Russians and the deal with them. So I'm watching it, and you already know there's evil Russians. So it's not a shock to you that there's evil Russians, but it's a shock to the characters. And sure, the characters are fun enough that it makes it work, but there are some points where I'm like, the season mystery goes on so long of not really furthering that plot line and just moving so like a trail of space for that it just makes you go, fuck this shit. I already know the thing. Or like, when Eleven and Max trying to start figuring out something's wrong with Billy, and they take so long to figure that out. I'm like, I already know what Billy's been up to because I've seen it, So it just becomes so annoying and tedious because a lot of the fun of this show is you don't always know what's going on. And, there's aspects of some of the stuff we did know that was going on, like in Stranger Things Season 2. We did know that Will was obviously being possessed, but there were still enough other mysteries that I was engaged with and better character writing. But this season, like, the character writing really failed all the characters this season, except Will. Just that emotional struggle of wanting to be with his friends is really powerful stuff. I thought that really worked. But everybody else just felt like they're either given shit to do not enough character work, and then they kill off Billy this season in a great scene. But it's just like after that, this whole show just kind of and I also think the Evil Russians plotline is just terrible, and it kills this whole show for me because they joked about that being a possibility in the first seasons, and it felt like that's all it was a joke. But then it became real, and I get why they did it because the show's in the 80s, obviously Cold War stuff. But I mean, think about what this show has become. I mean, you got all these complicated subplots that are now here because of the Evil Russian plotline. I mean, first of all, when you get to season 4, there's that whole long stretch of the season of Hopper trying to escape that prison. That's really bad. Just stuff that just goes on too long. You got, you got that plot line, and then you got God, I'm sorry, I'm tired. What was I gonna say? Oh, you got the fact that because of Hopper being in that prison, everybody's separated across different places, and they're on a kind of converge in these long plot line. It just becomes a mess because of that plot line being introduced in the show. And is there a reason for it? Is there a reason that we needed to evolve Evil Russians in the show and all these plot lines? I don't think there was, and I think it was really just frustrating because I feel like this show is absolutely worse because a lot of the decisions the creators made this season. And it really killed my love for this show for a long time. And even right now, I'm recording this video before I have to put this video out in September. And I'm kind of glad that I don't have to watch another season until September. So that way I can get a break in between seasons, because this season really does put a fucking negative taste in my mouth. And I do not like this season at all. There's good elements in it, but I hate rewatching it because it just becomes so tedious at a point.